She said, if I find out that you are a homosexual, you're not my son anymore. I never got upset by it. I never got sad by it. It literally gave me a lot of strength. I will teach you the lesson of your life for saying that to me. Massive level of interest was actually political science and investigative journalism. It wasn't nothing to do with passion. Yeah, my first job was actually selling mangoes from Damulla. Cricket matches came 1,000 years later. Okay.
Right, okay.
Should I have been married to her? Probably not. But it was an amazing wedding. That much I can tell you, right?
Okay. Hi, this is Supun and this is Lindalanga. So today's guest has been around since the dinosaurs. I think his words, not mine. He's a fashion designer. He's also an entrepreneur in fashion industry. Stefan, hi Stefan. Thank you so much for being on the
Hey.
show.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. I'm really good. And let me start off by saying how amazed I am by this series because I
Thank you.
stumbled upon it by accident because I saw two people I knew, Denver actually, and Zia, who had been on your show, and then I kind of latched onto it from there, and I haven't been able to stop since. I've been like binge watching it. I'm up to
Mhm.
about a 60% mark now, so that's and you know how long the programs. So that's a lot of hours. That's a lot of hours
Yes.
I've been binging on the
Yeah, yeah.
Lindalanga stories, which are quite
Right.
hilarious, I'd say. It's like so much fun to listen to, Anyway, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, when you reached out to, I think, Denver first, you mentioned that how much you loved it, and thank you so much for that. And I agree, like, there has been complaints about the length of the episodes. I mean, I'm trying to shorten them, but yeah, like, they are so long sometimes. Like,
Yeah, but
it's
I've never, I mean, I still haven't come to one of those hours or whatever that it has dropped. It's always been, it has never dropped. You're always amused by something, or you're always educated by something. So I don't think I think the timing is great. In fact, I think it's
right.
sometimes too short. Yeah. Anyway.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, because yeah, like when we start talking, like yeah, something comes up and we just keep going, and yeah, it's sometimes there are episodes like that went up to almost like 2 hours. There were like yeah, I think there were one or two that went up to like 2 hours. So yeah, thank you again. Thank you so much for your like feedback and
Thank
supporting
you
this.
for this. Yeah.
um, yeah, I think I just like you said, I loved the one that I did with Siha also, and also Denver. I loved the episode that I did with Denver also. Like it's a lot of knowledge. Like he's been around, you know, for a
Oh,
really long time, just like you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't tell you how much I have learned from Denver myself, like, because,
Right.
yeah, he's been like really sort of one of those people who has been like really invested in, helping so many people and like,
Yeah.
being a part of the whole, uh, part of sort of our sort of queer story, which is like amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, Sihas, I think you sort of notice the podcast through Sihas episode, right? Like I loved doing the episode with him also. Like it was so fun, and it was so raw. You know his experience and the things he
Raw,
struggled
yeah,
through.
raw, real, and relatable, and also
Right,
not, yeah. Uh, it's nice when people are not consciously guarded when they actually,
right.
it was,
Yeah.
that was what was really nice about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I noticed with in him and also his friend Lochi. Like they are like very they do not care like what other people
Actually, what
think.
really
Like
stood
they
out
just
was,
express.
yeah, what really stood out was like, Zia Lochi, uh, who else was there? There was Benny, there was
Benny,
Gayan.
yes,
Love Gayan's
yeah,
program. Love Gayan's program was so much fun. Like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. So, yeah.
yeah.
So,
Tilina and yeah, yeah.
yeah. Tina's fun. Yes.
So Stefan, what are you doing these days? Like, let's talk about your fashion stuff. Like, I've seen your work. I think, yeah. I mean, I'm sure like a lot of people in the fashion industry knows you. Like, you're a veteran. Can I call you a veteran?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, so I'm going to be honest with you. While I was the fashion was really not it was not really it was not something I really wanted to originally go into. It's something that happened by
Mhm,
the way.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah, my original sort of line of study and sort of massive level of interest was actually political science and investigative journalism. It wasn't nothing to do with
Wow.
fashion. Yeah,
Yeah,
fashion was a by the
that's
way thing.
interesting.
Fashion happened only because I was a, I was a poor kid that went to a rich school, and basically I started making shirts for myself,
Right.
and then my friends
Okay.
started liking my clothes, and then it
Okay.
kind of became a business. So
Wow.
yeah, so I think that's how the fashion aspect came into. I was good at what I was doing, and that started making money. But the heart and the mind and everything was on the political side. It was like that
Right.
was like was really what I wanted to do.
Right.
Also, yeah, my first job was actually selling mangoes from Damulla to Colombo.
Wow. Really?
I I used to go collect mangoes in
That's this is
Damulla
fashions
and
here and that's there. Like I don't know where that is. Yeah,
supply.
that's really interesting.
While I was in school, supply a cannery in Mount Lavinia. So, that used to do cordials. And that's how so I think the entrepreneurial part was always there. Now I see
Right.
it. Now I see it.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. Yeah,
so
yeah,
earlier,
yeah, yeah.
make as much money as you can because, you don't have money, you know,
Right.
and it's that when you grow up, also when you grow up poor, you tend to latch on to anything and everything. So, like it doesn't matter. You're doing everything to make the money. So,
Right.
yeah, so
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
basically, I think really it. Fashion was, yeah, it was kind of I happened to be good at what I was doing and it was
Right.
making the money. So I continued doing it because,
Mm-hmm.
well, I guess circumstances well, because I had to keep doing it to make the money. And then, of course, it was in a time also where Sri Lanka had like two television stations and one radio. So,
Right.
and no mag- and no magazines.
And the dinosaurs.
And the
The
dinosaur.
dinosaurs were there. Yes.
Look up, yeah, that's what you were looking at them walking around. So, yeah, so that was quite, yeah, so it was quite, I think there were people like Mangala and who was actually
Right.
a huge inspiration to me because he was this
Right.
guy who was just back from, Central St. Martin's in London,
Mm-hmm.
who was also young, and who had got into the trade, into the business, but then I think because of his family background and whatever, and I think he went into politics as well. So he was like a dual inspiration for me, you know,
Uh-huh.
side
Right.
plus the political side. And
Yeah,
actually, it
okay.
was
Okay.
Marvel who said to me, keep your name separate from your label because if you want to get into politics, do that. So that's how the Andre Stefan came about as a
Mm.
label. Because my name is obviously Stefan Andre Joachim, but my label became Andre Stefan. So he was like, keep the two because it will always be important for you when you enter the political sphere, if you choose to make sure that
Right. There's
you
always two names, right, in the fashion. Yeah,
yeah,
I've noticed
which
that.
is, I
Okay.
mean,
Yeah, yeah.
he was Mangala Samaraweera, but his label was called Cross Blood, and his designer name was Mangala Innocence. So it was, yeah. So he was very specific about that.
Wow.
But like I said, he was amazing. He was an amazing
Right.
sort of designer, and as well as I haven't really seen stuff even today, like what he did back then.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
he was a huge inspiration in that sense. And actually irrespective because through a couple of the programs and shows you kind of see these names popping up and
Mm-hmm.
uh there I think a lot of people were under the impression that he wasn't out. He was out. His mother
He
knew
was out.
he was,
Right.
and his sister knew who he was. And when
Right.
he entered parliament, they used to, because obviously his parents were his mom was very well known in the political sphere as well, and like this, he was known as Kema's boy, which was his mother's name, and
Okay.
they all knew. And he always, even on television, he always mentioned the fact. He said, if my mother and my sister knew, there was no necessity for me to. announce to the world who I was. I was who I was.
Mm-hmm.
It was so. But for him, the fact that his mother and his family knew was good enough for him. So I think that's another thing that we need to understand, that because the thing is, a lot of people, I feel, judge it also by their perspective, where they come out waving a pride flag, and everything about them is about
Yes.
being gay. Their
Right.
entire lives revolve
Right.
around being gay. And some
Right.
people don't see it like that. Some people just feel, okay, this is just my sexuality,
Right.
and therefore, so I mean, I must say, because like now, for instance, Kolu, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Kolu has been Kolu all his life. He's
Yeah.
never, need to have any flag waved anywhere. Back in the 90s, he
Right.
had one of the most amazing, restaurants named Kolu, and he was
Right.
plastered in drag all over the restaurant
Right.
for the whole of Colombo to
Right.
see. I mean, to me, those are really inspirational stories. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
you may not have the activism that there is today. However, these were bold moves. This is like you being out there and up on a wall for everybody to see. That was like a huge, huge thing. And I must
Mm-hmm.
also say, like, for people like me, uh, you know, people like Kolu are a huge, have, and I shouldn't say word, they still are a huge, huge strength, because, there were
Mm-hmm.
these people who always, sort of guided you through a lot of things with stories. And I
Right.
mean, there are times that I have fallen apart completely, and
Mm-hmm.
he has been literally the one to pick me up and, put me back together again. So there are people
Mm-hmm.
like this also who have, been, I think, uh, who are not the everyday type of activists that we see
Right.
all over,
Mm-hmm.
but who have done a lot for a lot of people in that sense. Because for me,
Yeah. Yeah.
really, if you help five people privately, or one
Mm.
person privately, is
Right.
is good enough.
Good
Everybody
enough.
doesn't have to
Yes.
hold hands and march on the street to
Right.
sort of be the activists that we consider sort of activists. So yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
coming back to
That's a
the
really Yeah, that's a really
yeah.
interesting point. I mean, not to dismiss all the struggles and everything that the community and the activists goes through, but I agree. Like going back to Mangala's case, like he didn't want to define himself as
No,
like a gay politician or anything.
no,
Like he's a
he never did.
politician. He
He never
was
did.
gay, yes. It's just part of it, right? Like he didn't want to shape his whole career or his whole life based on his sexuality. It's just one uh, one of thousand identities in him, right? So just
Absolutely.
like you said, he's a good person. He's I don't know about his politics, but then again, as a person, he's the things he's been telling, and his way of life. And there are a lot of things to get inspired from, right? And
For sure. And no, and the thing is, I was very close to him, in the sense that I was very
right.
close to him for about, you know, very close to him in the sense that may not be close to him like his friends of his age were, but I was very close
Mhm.
to him in a lot of ways. Like we used to sit and discuss a lot of things. And I must say that, like, I mean, I can tell you stories off camera
Mhm.
that you would not
Right.
believe, in
Yeah.
terms of, whatever. But the reality is that it's like what you said, he did not want his sexuality to define him in any way, you know.
Right.
And
Mhm.
and I keep going back to this in the sense that, we they were who they were. And back
Mhm.
in the day, when you really think about it, back in the day, now we talk about sensitization, we talk about all these things. Every ministry he worked in knew who he was. There was no choice but to
Mhm.
be sensitized by this man who was, who he was.
Yes.
Plus, plus also, like,
Yeah.
if you take Kolu, for instance, I mean, back in the 90s, like I keep telling you, like, I mean, these were these 6 foot, 8 foot posters of this man. He had one of the most, he had one of the nicest bars in that, I would say one of the first gay bars in the country, in terms of, like, in his
Mhm.
restaurant called the Kiss Kiss Bar, right?
Right.
And I mean, all these guys, like, everybody who worked for him, you'd say, had no choice but to be sensitized by the situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, their contribution in a lot of ways is
Mhm.
like, goes beyond, measure in that sense, because it was then much later did the organizations come in and the money come in and all this stuff from the outside sources. And I think that's when, you know
That's
everything started to
politics.
kind of take a turn. But yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
as far as these
yeah.
guys are concerned, they were like virtually like sort of pioneers
Hmm.
where the whole movement goes, So
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, but one of the things that he said that stuck in my head, also that could relate very much with what with my ideology and everything was that එයා එක මේ මං හිතන්නේ මොකක් හරි ස්කෝල් එක හරි මේ මොකක් හරි ඉවෙන්ට් එකක
yes, don't
he
worship.
tells all this to
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
don't worship.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
very
yeah.
progressive and
Yeah,
he was so proud to say that. I mean he was so නිර්භීත මේ කියන්නේ
yeah.
to say that,
Hugely,
right?
hugely proud to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, yeah.
Hugely
So
proud to say.
that's one thing I got stuck in my head, and that's something that I got inspired by also. Like
Yeah.
it's very I find it very progressive statement, given the context of the Sri
I
Lankan
mean,
society
a
and given
lot
the
of
context of
yeah, a
politics.
lot of things he said about the political sphere, a lot of things he said
Hmm.
about the religious sphere, all of those things was like, like massively detrimental to him politically.
Right,
But he
right.
didn't give a shit. He was like,
No,
this is
he
what it is. This is who I am. This is how I'm saying it. I mean, having said all of this,
right.
don't imagine that in any form, that I was this, I rooted for him because I didn't agree with him politically to a huge extent,
Yes,
right?
same here. Yeah.
I did not agree with him politically to a huge extent. That was
Hmm.
his cause. That was his
Hmm.
belief. That was the way he went and did things. And,
Right.
well, that was him. So that's what he believed in. But as a human being, as a person, and
Hmm.
all the other things,
Right.
like I have massive respect for him in that sense,
Right.
massive
Yeah.
respect.
Correct.
So,
I mean, which sort of brings you to like nothing's binary. Like even humans are not binary. They are not either good or bad. It's a collection
absolutely.
of goods, and the bad is just you know pe- a
And,
person like
and,
yeah, a person
and you're
like
never going
Mangala has a lot of good things to to get inspired by, right? Yeah.
And, you're never going to be a hero in everybody's book, and neither are you going to ever be a villain in everybody's book,
Yes. Yeah.
for sure. And I think one thing is, I have over a period of time, I've come to realize that even there are people that I have villainized in the past,
Hmm.
who I don't see them like that anymore. Not
Right.
necessarily do I want to have anything to do with them,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
but I still don't. I still feel maybe like they're not as bad as I made them out to be, even in my head. So I think it's
Yeah.
also a growth thing. I think you also grow to understand. I
Yes.
think when you're young, you're very passionate and you're very bloodthirsty and you're very like like you kind of
Yeah.
tend to like go after, you love hard, but it's
Yeah.
suicidal and you want
In
to
your
cut
head.
yourself and you want to like do
Yes.
all this nonsense.
Very
And then
aggressive.
of
Yeah.
the older you get, you're like, okay, fine, maybe
Yeah.
that side to
You
this.
you start to see good in people, even the worst people. I mean, even the
Yeah,
people that you thought were the worst people, like you start
yeah, yeah,
seeing
yeah,
the good
yeah,
in
yeah,
them
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah, for
you
sure.
tend to realize everyone's like we are humans, right? Like we
Yeah,
have ups and downs, we have the goods and the bads, and we start to see our bad our bad qualities as well. Like we tend to like we kind of start to like reanalyze ourselves, which sort of helps us to like understand other people also, right?
and also
I
it's
think it's a growing up
circumstances.
thing.
You're also at that moment you're also dealing with certain things based on the circumstances that are laid out in front of you as well. You know,
Right. Yeah.
it's circumstantial, right? Everything is circumstantial. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that coupled with the immaturity, and then how you might look at things and stuff like that, and
Right.
also your everything's especially when you're in a place of power or position where everything's coming at you. You're not.
At you.
Oh
Correct.
yeah,
Like up to a certain age, like you do whatever you are told to do, or like your thinking, your behaviors, and your perspective about others. They're all shaped based on either propaganda or whatever you are told and whatever
absolutely,
around you. I think
absolutely.
after some age, you eventually start to grow out of it, and you kind of start to see like, no, this is not me. I shouldn't be in it. I should be just like outside of it, and have my own
I
ideology, have my own perspective. I think
over
that's
the
probably what changes.
over the years, I've come to sort of create a little theory, for
Hmm.
myself. Like I feel it doesn't matter when you're from the time you're born till you're like 20. I f-
Hmm.
like I like to think of it in 20-year blocks. So like,
Okay.
from the time you're born till you're 20, it doesn't matter whether you're a beggar's son or
Right.
daughter, or whether you're a king's son or daughter. There
Right.
is there there are certain things that you require. It doesn't matter whether your
Hmm.
father's a king or a beggar. It doesn't.
Hmm.
That's like you require safety, you require understanding, you require love above all. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And like, to
Yeah.
feel safe. To
Right.
feel safe. Now,
Yeah.
when you're in your 20, and also your surroundings shape you. So then when you're from your 20 to 40, you start to break things down, and you're like, okay, I was taught this, but is this really right? Or do I sort of form my own sort of path?
Hmm.
And then from
Right.
between your 40 and your 60, you're starting to now live the truth that you've created.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then 60 to 80 is anywhere no
Right.
go. So like, let's forget about that part. But
Yeah.
it's like, 60 when you come out, right? Now what happens is in this process, like in the whole process of doing this, um, there are people, not everybody, there are
Hmm.
people who will follow through their 40s, and they follow blindly 20s
Right.
and 40s what they were taught, because there are people who are
I
accustomed
think
to a
that's the
religion,
majority. I think. Yeah. I think
who
that's the
believe,
majority.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
actually, with this slightly younger generation, who I refuse to name,
Hmm.
right? They
Right.
they they
Yeah.
they, they, they kind of it looks very it it seems like they almost know who they are,
Yeah.
to a shocking point. Like, they know who
Yes.
they are. Not
Right.
necessarily are they the smartest in the room, but definitely they know who they are. Right? I think
Yeah. But that's true.
their
Yeah. I
survival
think
skills are
I
a little
agree with you.
the survival
Right.
skills are actually very weak, right?
Weak. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very weak. Because I say from a perspective of employment or employees, or I have friends who
Right.
basically employ people. They're very these guys,
They're
they
fragile.
can't last the training. They like
Right.
the moment you give them something that's a little too hard, they're willing to just
Hmm.
leave and move on. So that's,
It's too
but
hard.
in
It's too difficult.
general.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just talking the
Yeah.
general is that, they tend to feel like it's a little too hard, or they are stressed, or they are,
Yeah.
so, so I'm like, okay, fine,
I
whatever,
mean,
right?
they come.
But
Just have a
it's all
peek
of
in my
that.
head. Yeah.
Yeah, well, so it's
Yeah.
all of that as well. But I must say they do. They're very clear about who they are as people. That I will
Yeah.
give them.
True.
You know.
True. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. To
So
add to that, I totally agree with you. I agree with you about the weak part, and also I agree with you. They are sorted. Like for example, like even the emotional intelligence is way ahead of me when I was at that age. Even way ahead of my generation right now also, like
for
compared
sure,
to a lot of people.
absolutely.
So which is I think helping them. I think they empathize with. I don't know if it's all of them, but at least most of that crowd that I've engaged with, like they empathize with others. They understand, like they are more inclusive. They let different identities and different even the weirdest things in, and they accept that all that. But yeah, they're a little fragile, like but maybe it's the age, it's the the lack of experience or whatever. But yeah,
Also, I think the problem is that most of this particular generation, and how I'm going to get through this without mentioning his name.
I mean, let's
Okay, I, uh, I, more, most of the Gen Zs are
right.
products of the
Hmm.
Gen Xers,
Hmm.
right? Not the millennials. They're more
Right.
products of the Gen Xers.
Right.
So Gen Xers are the ones that had no boundaries. They were like completely wild and loose, and they had no parental control and whatever,
Right.
right? That's where
Mm-hmm.
I come from, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
they the Gen Zs are the products of these. So the problem is
Right.
also you see a lot of helicopter parenting. You have like, I mean, these guys can't step out. They need like to be, they need to text back saying where they're going, how they're going, why they're going, like with whom they're.
Right.
It's like this, and it's like constantly all eyes on them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I see amongst a lot of people I know.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost cushioned. It's almost cushioned. Like,
Right.
like people, like I know people would call me and say to me, "Oh, my, is it possible for you to get, my kid and their friends into the love bar?" And I'm like, yeah, of course, but how old are they? Uh, you know, my daughter will or my son will be 18 in like maybe a month. And I'm like, okay, so call me in a
Uh-huh.
month. Yeah.
Right.
Because you know what I mean? Like,
Why not wait a month? I mean, what's
you know
happening
what I mean?
today,
Just
right?
call me in a month,
Yeah.
like, but,
Yeah.
because like I cannot
Mm-hmm.
imagine my mother,
Yeah.
me telling my mother, could you call so and so and ask them to get me into a club? Like, I would have literally been skinned, right?
Yeah.
If I had
Yeah.
said that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
I probably wouldn't have, like, it would have also felt a little too shame. I would have preferred, as a person, to take my chances and sneak into the cloud, create a fake ID,
Mm-hmm.
do something, right? But never not to ask my mother to ask her friend or
Yeah.
to,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I
I
mean?
think, yeah, I understand. Yeah, so probably because like the trauma that we went through with all that, being controlled and not, not being able to like go out like that, just like that, and all that. I think because of all that, because we've experienced all that, like our generation is wants to like give more freedom to their children. Maybe like they don't want whatever we went through. They don't want that to happen to their children. That's probably why all the Gen Zs are getting that much of
You know?
freedom,
So,
maybe.
yeah, so I think when you're constantly cushioned and when you're constantly like,
Right.
or you get a call saying, okay, so and so's coming with their friends, just have an eye. Like, like,
Yeah.
have you not brought your child up well enough to not have someone else have an eye on them when they're in a club? I mean, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, what is all this
Right.
parenting for? Like,
Yeah.
So to me, it's just the imbalance is a little crazy. Like, I can't.
Right.
I,
Right.
I feel I feel like it's like, because technically, people. It's like these kids don't have to be in a club at night
Right.
to do something wrong.
Yeah. Right.
If
Yeah. True.
I know at my age I wasn't in a club to do something wrong. I was probably
Yeah.
everywhere else. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
I was not
True.
supposed to do.
Yeah. I don't think I've done anything wrong in the club because of all the security and everything. Yeah. A
Exactly.
club probably is where you don't do something wrong.
And the thing, and like, like I tell my really close friends, I tell my cousin, I tell all these people, like, like you are a good parent, you've done a good job, like
Hmm.
let let you know let just see how things go. You don't need to keep at this, you don't need to keep like checking in on, trying to put in the pressure on them and stuff like that, because like I don't know, it's my personal belief. Now people might say, like, shut the fuck up
Right.
because you're like, you don't have a child, so you don't know what you're talking about. It's probably also a good
Right.
thing because,
Yeah.
but the thing is that it's from an outside perspective, it's really crazy to see this kind of, you know
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and I just
True.
think it takes away a lot of their personal skills also the moment they are dependent on a lot of things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
And
Cool. Yeah, that's true. Let's go to your go way back to the dinosaurs age, to your childhood. Like, what's that like? Have you always been like a gay kid?
no.
Did it shape your life?
So I'm so glad I watched all this. I just watched all the programs before I came to this because like it's clear there are references I can pull from. So back, like sort of growing up in the 80s, basically there was no, like, I did not know that there was a word for this. Right? There was
Hmm.
no
Hmm.
word, as it were.
Yeah.
There was, I think, because like I said, two television stations. One was ITN, one Vine, one was, and the one radio station, SLBC. You know,
Yeah.
nobody spoke about anything. TV started at 6:30, 6 in the evening, and in that
Yeah, yeah.
10:30 in
With
the night.
cartoons. Yeah.
And yeah, in the Sesame Street actually, right? And
Seriously, yeah, yeah, yeah.
ended up at like 10:30 in the night. So there was no, I think the most probably dynasty or golden dynasty or conquest
Yeah.
probably was like the
Like
most
I
dull.
remember like the airtime was like there were segments. Kids time,
Correct.
yeah, the news and the adult time. And
Yeah.
there were times that these times sometimes like overlap when there were like cricket matches, when there were like special programs that overlapped with, cartoon time. I was so stressed out because I was never like, because adults take over, right? Like when there's a cricket match, they take over, and I can watch cartoons, and I get so stressed out. That was a very stressful time.
Cricket matches came 1,000 years later. Okay.
Right? Okay. Okay, this is way
That,
back.
that's when this how to go live. Okay.
Okay.
I'm talking about
Wow, I feel so young now.
I'm talking about pre-live. Okay. I'm talking about canned old material from the US that was sent to Sri Lanka. Okay.
Now I feel bad to have all this gray hair. Like
Okay. So it's kind of yeah. This is pre-Twitter, and I agree with you. I can't
Right.
watch Twitter either,
Okay.
right? Okay. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
no, I
under any
can't. It's
circumstances,
torture.
yeah. Total torture, right? Uh,
Yeah.
I actually heard someone saying, one of your guests saying, like, that they, what, or was it you who said you traumatized when you thought you had to play cricket at some point?
Yeah,
When
I
they
mean
could,
that's me.
it
Yeah.
was you. Yeah,
For a
yeah.
good part of my life, even me, my career, like especially my career, like I had this trauma, like because every time you go out, the guys play cricket. So they plan for a cricket match. If you go on a trip, an outing, whatever it is, like there's a cricket match plan. And I don't know how to play cricket. Like I am hiding my whole, that's my sexuality for some extent. Not the sexuality, but my gender expression more like, I think. I didn't want to say that I can play cricket because it was, looked down upon and frowned upon, and like you were judged because of that. So it was such a stressful time. Then I came out of it, but then again, yeah, this cricket thing is so traumatic to me. Like still,
For
when
me,
I remember.
the good thing was I was an athlete and I was a runner as well as
Yeah,
and a swimmer, right? So
I
like,
like swimming. I love
okay,
swimming, but
okay.
not
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
For me, this cricket didn't become too much of an issue, but
right.
yes, because of that, it was always like, you kind of, and my thing was like, so for the first 10 years, I went to a local school, and then I went to international school, and then when I was in the local school, um, I was I escaped a lot of this because I had cousins. I had like girl, sort of female cousins who were older than me,
Hmm.
who went to like sort of others like HFC and like, St. Lawrence's and whatever. And
Right.
the older boys in school who were like my sort of house captains and, whatever, knew this. Like, so for me, it was always like, and back in the 80s, there were always
Hmm.
house parties. There was, the club scene was not really a club scene. It was more house parties. So it
Right.
was always the Hivala Mountain Club. So these guys always, the older boys always knew that I had these older girls who were cousins who would like, we would
Hmm.
be around. And
Right.
therefore, were always very nice to me. And I always, so my little kapang protection was in school because of that fact. Like,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I could always, I was always safe because of that. Right.
Okay.
So that was, and I used it as currency as well. That's what I said. Now, when I think about it, I think we were very smart. Because my parents separated when I was 4, 5.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and I'm an only child. Um, So I went through a hugely traumatic period as a child, from
Hmm.
extreme introvert to an extreme extrovert in my teens, in my young teens. So it was like a complete flip of the switch. But but the years of, like struggling and going through all this parental trauma and whatever with them, this whole separation and divorce and
Hmm.
separation actually trauma with them. They didn't divorce till I was 15. But
Right.
going through this whole hoo-ha with them taught me a lot of skills to be very
Hmm.
shrewd. So, like, I, even in school, like, if I got really bad results or whatever, like, I used to like literally go and, tell the teacher, like, I'm really sorry, but I'm going through this in the house. And I used to turn on the waterworks. And then I used to like, like, this is what and there's like, oh, okay, fine, fine. And then of course, you're okay. And then you go and stuff. So
Right.
I was very clever on how to use that. Became very clever on how to use the trauma to my benefit,
Right.
right? Always.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it
Yeah. Yeah.
became a
Yeah.
very, it, understanding these life skills were very important at a young age,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, I'm glad I can laugh about it now, but
Yeah. Yeah.
there was a time I couldn't. But
Right.
but yeah, so it was like, so yeah, uh learning, sort of my first, 10 years was also learning in Sinhalese, which is a disaster for me because I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't grasp. I think that together with, I think also, I think I do have a kind of a learning disability as well. I understand that now, which I couldn't
Yeah.
understand then,
Same.
in terms
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
like, for me, I'm a more visual, and if I had anything visually to do, I was fine. But it was all this, it was also the language barrier,
Mm-hmm.
so that was kind of thing. So that's why the moment I finished with my O levels, uh, I just refused to go back to school. I was like, no, not under any circumstances. And am I going back to learning in Sinhalese? And then
Mm-hmm.
my mother put me into, an international school. I just opened
Mm-hmm.
and doing, of course, which something she could barely afford to do, but because I refused to go back to St. Peter's, not that I demanded to go to an international school, or I just was happy not to go anywhere. I was just happy not to do anything, but she
Right.
was adamant that I do my A levels, so she put me
Okay.
into this school, and of course, that's when the other skills were honed, because you kind of also and I must say, even there, I became the first. I became the first president of the English Literary Association in school. And even then, I must say, see, this is why I say these skills come about, our survival in the queer business of
Mm-hmm.
life, also stems from these things. Because I remember certain parents in this international school, like, not wanting to meet me to be president, you know,
Oh wow.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
can see that.
and saying things
Yeah.
like, I so clearly remember this, this one person who said, this mother who said, literally just casually said, but who are his parents? As in, like, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
yeah. So the thing is, these things happen at all sphere, at all points, all spheres in life.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on
Yeah. Yeah.
this whole thing you kind of you're faced with whatever. But I must say, I had some amazing teachers, and I did go to a
Mm-hmm.
school that was quite amazing, and they stood by their decision as, who they picked for what
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. And I
Right.
must say, back then we had a group of friends, like, say, for instance, like I said before, like, even though I came from a poor background where we did not
Mm-hmm.
have kind of resources or the money that a lot of
Mm-hmm.
my friends came from,
Right.
those friends are still some of my closest friends even to date. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I would go to school and come to school and go from school in a bus, but
Right.
there were kids who used to come in one car and not know which was the next car that's coming to pick them up when they were going back home.
Right.
But
Right.
there was no differentiation back then. Like, kids were kids, like you didn't. Now I find it very different. Now I find this whole social structure, social strata, like, exactly who, what
Yeah. Yeah.
amongst kids. We didn't have that back then. Like, at least I did
Mm-hmm.
not have
Mm-hmm.
it back then. And like
Right.
some of those guys are like my closest friends, even up to date, you know
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
and I think that's something, like, I think also the entrepreneurial part came from the fact that I used to see my friends' dads, like, and
Mm-hmm.
parents probably being very entrepreneurial, and like, and then I used to
Right.
always think, okay, there is a starting point, because they also probably came from a very similar background at some point, right? Because nobody starts off with everything, right?
Right.
You grow
Right.
certain things, which
Right.
is why I tell a lot of the sort of younger sort of generation who are gay today, like, this whole social barrier, this whole, like, oh, the elitists, or the elitist gays, or the rich who don't,
I'm sorry.
are they branding themselves, or are you branding them?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
they can't help their circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
They can't help. Like, for instance, I know where I came from,
Mm-hmm.
I know how hard my fight. I still know how hard my fight is. Right. I'm not gonna. I'm not going to make excuses or apologize for what I have gained.
Right.
Or where I've come or what I've come, from, because that's been my own skills that have has got me here, at the end of the day. And I believe in time, if you know exactly where you're going and how you're doing it, you will get there as
Right.
well. I mean,
Right.
like I always keep saying, uh, you know, the, like even if you take even if you take Kolu, for instance, he went to a local boys' school, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and and his skills got him to where they got him. So it's those
Right.
things
Yeah.
don't those things you're not born into those things.
Right.
You're
Yeah. Yeah.
you're
Yeah. Yeah.
there are some
You
kids. A
develop
lot of
things.
kids today are born into a
Right.
lot of privilege,
Yes.
right? They're
Yeah.
born
Yeah.
into a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah. Yeah.
privilege,
True. Yeah.
and then
That's a very conflicting how to say that, a conflicting perspective, or I think, or an idea that I have also, like, do I want to change my past? Like, would things have worked out differently for me if I didn't go through all the trauma that I went through when I was a kid? Like, where I think sometimes I kind of like it also. I don't know. I probably like the way, who I am right now, maybe, and I because of that, I kind of I kind of like the things that the way it happened, even though it was trauma and all that, because I kind of believe that that kind of shaped me, uh
it does,
the
it
person
does.
who I am right now. But also it's very painful, like, also there's the other part where it's very painful when you look back. It makes me like, it's very painful and it's traumatic. And but then again, yeah, it's very conflicting. It's painful, and also, like, I like it because I believe that shaped me, and I like the person who I am right now, and the empathy that I have, the emotional intelligence that I have, because that helps me to, like, connect with people way better than, I don't know, compared to a lot of
And
people that's around me. So
the funny side of this is, like I have I have an ex of mine who's sort of who's got his degree and his bachelor's in mathematics, like in psychology and da, da,
right.
da, whatever. And then he always looks at me, he says, what the hell are you talking about? You do come from privilege. And I'm like, what privilege? And then he'd be like, the fact that you're born into a burger family that could speak English is privilege enough for you.
Yeah, that is a privilege. That is a
Yeah.
privilege. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. I
excuse me,
mean,
I
in
can't
in
help
Sri
that.
Lanka's context. Yeah.
I,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't help it. I was born, and then he was like, "Yeah, but it is still privilege. That's a
Hmm.
fact, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So
That's true.
I guess there are certain things for sure, that I will always be thankful for, for sure.
Right.
And but also, at the same time, I also do I know a lot of people who are born into English speaking families that don't necessarily, haven't necessarily, pushed the boundaries or done
Yeah.
anything probably with that
Yeah.
privilege,
I
at
know.
the same
I
time.
know. Yeah. I
So I
know
think it's
one or
also
two
up to
like
the
that also.
individual, always
Yeah.
it's up to the
Yeah. Yeah.
individual to
True.
figure that one out, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
don't think we should give all the credit to the past and the trauma and everything that happened. But yeah, I think a big part of that credit should go to yourself also. I think you worked it out.
and that
Uh.
and that and that kind of leads its way into this whole constant political correctness that we have been like sort of faced with and bombarded
Oh
with, you know,
my God. I
all
don't
the
want to go
time,
through that.
think
Like,
twice before saying this, think
this,
twice before saying that.
yeah, like, this political correctness is something that's hugely affecting what I'm doing with the podcast also. Like, that's something that takes up a whole lot of, I don't know, stress, of overall stress that I have when I, not stress, the self censorship
Awareness.
that I, yeah, self
Yeah.
awareness whenever I
Yeah.
talk, like, should I say this, should I be correct? I mean, I, I should be able to, like, say whatever I feel like, right? It could be wrong. I should be able to correct it later also if it's wrong, if I feel.
I would land, if I was you, I'll land all the pressure on your guests so that they get the flack and not you.
Exactly. Oh yeah, that's a good tactic. Yeah.
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 Let them take
Yeah.
it and not you. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
I think there's a lot of confusion in, and a lot of, people saying a lot. I mean, I personally, I don't understand half of it.
Mhm.
Personally, I don't understand half of it, and then I get attacked for not wanting to learn. Like,
Right.
I can't
Yeah.
do that. Explain to me later. I can't be bothered. Like, explain
Yeah.
to me
Yeah.
later. But, I was just be nice
Yeah.
to people. That's good enough. Yeah. Just be nice to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't be
it's the
nasty.
intention, right? It's all about the intention. Sometimes like you're not updated with the latest term that you use on something, and but you use it. But what's the intention of using it? Is it to like attack someone? Is it to like bully
Yeah.
someone? If not, then it's fine, right? I mean, yeah.
Being in the
So
fashion
yeah.
trade, I get bombarded a lot,
Ah,
you know,
okay.
especially by the
Yeah,
people
we've
around.
talked about it yesterday. I don't know. Yeah, like yeah. Let's
Thank
talk
you.
about fashion. Like yeah, about that. Something that I've talked to other fashion designers in the industry, especially in Sri Lanka. Also, there's this one fashion designer um who prefers models with like, darker skin. And he one of the complaints that he brought up was that in the fashion industry, a lot of fair skinned models get more. They get paid more and they get more. Opportunities and all that, and more darker skinned models they don't. Are you one of them? Or I'm putting you on the spot on this one. So, are you one of the fashion designers who prefer models with the fairer skin?
I love models with dark skin.
Okay.
I love models with dark skin. I try to avoid, which is also not fair. I try to avoid booking
Right.
models with light skin, which is also
Okay.
not fair.
Right.
And sometimes they're really pretty, but sometimes it does really fit my profile. And then because about in 2018, and before actually, but 2018 was my show point. 20, yeah, from about 2015 or 16, I started something called Colonial Romance, which is
Mm-hmm.
basically the atrocities of the British colonization and skin color being something that has, been a huge part of this whole thing. And Colonial Romance was actually a play on the name in terms of really taking the piss where the name was concerned because romanticizing something that was so tragic. But it's
Mm-hmm.
it's also a play because everything was about the entire show was broken up into all the atrocities that were created by the British,
Mm-hmm.
and how Sri Lanka as an island has sort of suffered the sort of the backlash and is continuing to suffer it.
Continuing.
Like say for
Yeah. Yeah.
instance, 365 and 365 where the penal codes people that we kind of struggle under as well. Like
Yeah.
which had nothing to do with. So yeah, coming back to skin color and
The
models.
current society is colonial. Like it's very much
Yes,
colonial still.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
pretty much. So then
Yeah.
yeah. So for me, uh, uh, I was. I- I'll tell you a really quick story, fast. And during my 2018 show, which was it's actually three parts. It was meant to be 2018, 2019, and 2020. I broke the show up into three parts, but unfortunately, 2018 happened. Number one happened, but 2019, then the bomb went off, and then there was COVID. And so I'm still sort of struggling to get that particular thing off the ground. But during
Okay.
before the show, my about a week before the show, a few member like my team sort of got in touch with me. And was like, "If there's one photographer who is interested in having a look at, he's coming for the show and he's from America and whatever." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, whatever, just give him a pass or whatever." After the show, this guy came to me and he was like, "Hi, my name is, so and so," and then he was like, I was blown away by this fact that you had used all these dark skin models. And he was
Mm-hmm.
an American photographer. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, thank you because that somebody really noticing it. And he
Mm-hmm.
probably was the only one who noticed it. And he was like, I'm so, whatever. Anyway, the bottom line remained with the fact that this guy was the official photographer for the Kardashians, who happened to be in Sri
Okay.
Lanka, right?
Right.
And
Okay.
and we became great friends after he shot Sri Lanka's first fashion calendar, which was my fashion calendar, which I did. I didn't know stuff like that, and it was really. But he and I have maintained a friendship right throughout, like and he loves Sri Lanka to begin with, but he loves the fact that I use all these sort of constantly use these dark skin models. See
Mm-hmm.
again, so but dark skin models is something that I am very sort of focused on because I
Mm-hmm.
really genuinely feel that that's, like, I mean, look at Elena, who's doing like so well in Paris at the moment, right? She's she's
Mm-hmm.
she's Sri Lankan, but she's doing so well at the moment. Like, she's like on all the major campaigns, right? Now, however, the flack I get from my own team and people are like, find me models in this shape. This, and they're like, Steph, you're like looking for really thin people. And I'm like,
Right.
well, that's the look I'm going for. So,
Right.
like I
Yeah.
don't, to me, my brand does not necessarily, cater to sort
Right.
of larger people. And then I get attacked for that. Like, and up and probably this is why, and probably this is, see, the thing is, so but here, like when you say fashion in Sri Lanka, the problem is
Mm-hmm.
also this. Um, do we really have fashion in Sri Lanka? Because do we
Mm-hmm.
really, are we a big enough population to like sort of create and live off this kind of thing? Because technically, what happens is you end up being, because our market is not big enough, right? We have a
Mm-hmm.
very
Mm-hmm.
small market that has the
Right.
mind for that kind of business. So
Mm-hmm.
unless you become a glorified English speaking tailor under the
Mm-hmm.
guise of a designer, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
never going to make the kind of money that you require or you should be making. Or, well,
Mm-hmm.
certainly not the kind of money that I feel that. Because if you're tailoring, you're a tailor. There's a difference
Mm-hmm.
between the
Mm-hmm.
two, you
Right.
know? Whereas
Yeah. Yeah.
sort of, a designer's job is something totally different, right? And the
Right.
other thing is that for some reason, Sri Lanka has got used to, you know, designing or creating these massive tents for women, cutting a hole in the top, wrapping a rope
Right.
around the middle, and calling it
Right.
a piece of
Yeah.
clothing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it has become very trend based. These big tents draped on women
Mm-hmm.
with a rope tied around their waist, right? So
Right.
like, so this is like a huge balance. So, which is why I probably diversified also quite young into
Mm-hmm.
other businesses to keep the actual design business alive and to stay true to design. Because if you're
Mm-hmm.
going
Mm-hmm.
to live off it, then
Mm-hmm.
you really, you'll be designing either, some things. I don't know whether we don't really have the market for a large enough market for that kind of sale. So
Right. So yeah, like with my very limited knowledge in fashion, like what I see fashion is also like another form of art, right? Like when I see the
yeah,
New York Fashion Week or whatever, like it's very much art for me. But then again, whenever you like do fashion shows or whatever, like in Sri Lanka, you get this. Hey, I've seen these comments like especially on social media. Me magul ko and again pare yan ko that I feel like the Sri Lankan, I don't know, I'm not going to call it Sri Lankan society because a lot of people are going to get triggered by that. But then again, I feel like people don't understand that fashion is also an art. It doesn't necessarily mean whatever they wear on the ramp, they are not meant to be worn like
and
to the
අන
supermarket,
අන
right?
අනිත් එක තියෙන්නේ අර කමෙන්ට් එක දැම්ම මිනිස්සයාට නෙවෙයි ඔක දාලා තියෙන්නේ. හදලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒක අනිත් එක.
Uh huh. Exactly.
Right?
Okay.
You
Shady.
know, අගු මගුල
Yeah,
තියෙනවා
that's
ෂොප්
true.
එක අස්සේ කොහෙවත්.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
this is it. The thing is that this non-understanding of exactly what this means is another thing.
Yeah,
And also the thing
yeah.
is that over the years, the problem is also that fashion has been ruined by a certain sect in Sri Lanka because it's become a
Mm-hmm.
money-making game. In
Mm-hmm.
terms of the shows have become a money-making game, opposed to actually nurturing and being able to, because when you have people who are in fashion
Right.
who haven't any training in it, who are purely in it for the
Mm,
business of it, you know,
right.
it kind of and then the designers are technically not wealthy enough to do individual collections, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they will latch on to any platform basically to show whatever they need to show. The people who are organizing it need to have anybody showing because they need to have people to bring the numbers in to say, okay, fine, we have X, Y, Z showing with us. But then what are you
Mm-hmm.
showing? Is this really
Mm-hmm.
something?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, this has been going on forever. This is a hugely debatable thing back and forth. But like I
Right.
said, I mean, to me, it has not got better. It has only got worse because I back in the 90s and whatever it was the looks and feel it was much stronger. Like
Mhm,
we have a couple of really good designers in Sri Lanka, like who
mhm,
really are going out of their way to create something, sort of different and amazing and stick to like sort of an ethos where their lines are concerned. And then they're fighting a hard game, but nevertheless you can
mhm.
see it, you know, doing really well for them. Uh, but on the whole, no, I think there's a lot more to be, that I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know. It can be because I don't know whether we have the numbers in Sri Lanka. That's the other thing, It's
Right.
not like being in India or one of those other places, So yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's true. Yeah. Like, yeah, I mean, if you look at a piece and if you feel good, if you feel happy, I mean that's pretty much it. I mean, you don't have to like put yourself in that whatever dress or whatever, right? Like it's not that that's not how fashion works, right?
And
Um,
also, we can't. I don't know whether it's us or whether it's in general, but you know, when you're, especially where social media is concerned, I think
mhm.
people are a lot more bolder in their statements, especially the
Yeah,
ones
yeah,
that hide behind no names and no faces and whatever,
yeah. My God,
to
those
say their
ones.
little
Yeah,
things and run off, and then so it's like I
yeah.
think those things you need to like really not bother too much about. But at the end of the day, I think as a business, as whatever else, I think it's huge. I think internationally it's taken a beating. You can
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
see huge beating internationally. I mean,
Right.
this Met Gala was a disaster, and
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
in terms of
Oh
like
yeah.
creative side as well, it was I think Devil Wears Prada 2 was nowhere near the original plot lines. It was, I mean, even on those levels, you can see that, it's taken a beating worldwide, So, I mean,
Right.
this
Yeah,
year was the
yeah.
first thing that so many houses changed their designers virtually overnight. I think because they're all grappling for something new. I think the money market has changed severely, you know. The
Okay.
money market
Okay.
has changed severely. And the thing is that the unless you're in the wedding market, and the bridal market, and then that's because Sri Lankans go broke over funerals and weddings. So basically, they will spend whatever they need to
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
on that part of it. But then
They try
again,
to prove something with through
yeah,
like they
and
try to
again,
prove something that they don't have through
and again,
weddings
you're
and
tailoring, right? You are tailoring, you know.
yeah,
You you
yeah.
you you're essentially tailoring clothing. You're not. It's not like
Right.
you have this bridal collection like Vera Wang that's going up, and
Yeah,
then you go
yeah.
and buy something off her collection. You're literally saying, "Can you make me look like this?" So then, oh, that's what
Mm,
happens. Yeah.
yeah. True. What's it? So I saw this interesting argument of some one of the content creators about Met Gala, but before that, I forgot what the theme was for this year. Do you know like what the theme was for Met
Met
Gala
Gala,
this year?
the Met
Yeah,
Gala,
yeah,
art,
Met Gala.
art
Art,
imitating life. Yeah. So
art imitated. So there was this content creator who was saying that why there were no drag queens on the red carpets of Met Gala because they do fashion as an art way better than a lot of I mean if you look at all the drag queens
because
and
they
their
probably
dresses and
couldn't afford to play it.
right, yeah,
It's just
yeah,
like some crazy, crazy amount.
yeah,
Also, don't
yeah,
forget you
yeah,
have
yeah.
to be invited to buy the plate. That's the other thing, right?
That's a problem. Yeah, they were not invited. Yeah, none of
Yeah.
the drag queens were invited. Yeah, I mean that was just an argument from one of the people that I follow. Um, so, Stefan, are you gay?
I would think so, yes.
There's the reason that I'm asking. You were married to a woman, right? You used to be married to a woman. Like,
Yes.
how did that work out? Like,
Uh, okay, so that was, we would have been married actually 25 years this April,
right?
right? So,
Okay.
and yeah, I mean, we were first very close friends.
Mm-hmm.
We were, and then sort of that grew, and then we sort of, I think it's one of those things that you do, when you're not sure exactly what, because when I when we first met, it was under like strange circumstances. Like, it was very, I actually interviewed her for a job first, for and then we became very close after that, and this
Mm-hmm.
is back I had just got back from Australia. I think I was out in Australia for a few years. My dad lives in Australia, so Australia is kind of second home for me. And I
Mm-hmm.
just literally got back, and I was doing this interior of this swim and surfwear shop, and I was interviewing all these sort of younger models and whatever to be the people working in the store because I really wanted some great bodies, right, to work in the store, and
Right.
then that's how we met. And then we became close, and,
Mm-hmm.
and then, time passed by, and then we kind of became really super close. And then we started seeing each other, and then we, got married.
Nice. Right.
Um, did I really at that point think, otherwise about
Mm-hmm.
whether I should be married to her or not? No, because I think I always believed I was bisexual. I always believed
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Some of
Yeah.
my really close friends still tell me I'm straight and not gay. Only
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, right? Why at this point in my life do
Wow.
I need to pretend that I'm straight and not gay? Or gay and not straight? And then they were like, no, no,
Yeah.
no. We
I
know you
know.
better. And I'm like,
It's usually the
what?
other way around.
So yeah, yeah. They're like, no, no, no. You're just doing it to be fashionable because all these young guys are gay. And I'm like, all the young people in fashion, I guess you're just doing it to be fashionable. So I said, okay, fine. Come with me on a Friday night. Let's go partying. You be fashionable for a night and see how you like it. They're like, okay, okay, okay. We pass that. We go past that whole thing. So yeah, so
Right.
I have some very close straight friends of mine who take the piss still. They're like they refuse to believe certain things still. I think
Yeah,
also
yeah.
because I think, the problem is also when you're sort of straight passing and,
Mm-hmm.
you've been an athlete in school, you've been a swimmer, you've been all these things. And then, you have that kind of
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
going for you as well. Which is why I feel sometimes when you're more feminine in school or you're more sort of, you get attacked in school, but you at
Mm-hmm.
least come out knowing who you are.
Right.
But when you're straight passing, sometimes this nonsense carries forever,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
tend to, so anyway, coming back to this whole situation, yeah, so the whole thing was, I also feel, because it's a question that has sort of bugged me for the longest time. It's like how,
Right.
where, when, why, but the more and more I've grown to understand it. I think loving somebody, you know, really caring for somebody and being close to somebody. And there's a big difference of being in love with somebody and just loving somebody with, your whole heart and soul.
Yeah.
And so much so, to be honest with you, um, I have, I mean, there are certain females I'm very close to even now, like super close to now, who sometimes their boyfriends and husbands have an issue with it because, and then
Right.
and these girls go like, can you like, you know, take a chill pill. This guy is gay. And
I
they're like,
know.
"Oh, he was married to a woman." So like, so then
Yeah.
that is also something you face.
Right.
That is also something I
Yeah, yeah.
face. Like,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm like, no, no, but this is what it is. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
over the years it's got a lot better. It's got a
Right.
lot better. I mean, recently my best friend, who's a female who lives in Switzerland, and she was
Okay.
down, and then we were together for about a month, and then she's telling me, she's like, so let's say if it's really funny, that my husband has checked you and me into like together, together into while traveling, like, it is very funny, but and that's the thing here, the thing is that I think you can truly genuinely love somebody deeply sometimes, because I feel sometimes there are certain women I'm much closer to than
Mm-hmm.
men, like,
Right.
I am much closer to
Right.
now. Yes, it has boiled down to a science, but then it was also a very confusing part
Mm-hmm.
because even before I married, my wife at the time,
Mm-hmm.
one of her closest friends was a guy, was somebody I was dating before her, in a way
Oh,
before her. Like, so
wow.
it's not like this is like a huge sort of, uh, surprise to anybody, like,
Right.
but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
also felt that, I was more fluid in my whole pattern. But
Mm-hmm.
no. And then the reason why we are still close today, we're
Mm-hmm.
still really close today,
Mhm.
both of us, is because, she always says to me, she says, like, you know, irrespective of, the whole sexuality part,
Mhm.
you're still one of the, best people I've ever been with in terms of a
Right.
person, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know whether, to be honest with you, Supun, whether I'm the the correct person, because even for me, it's so fluid, it's so all over the place, it's all over
Mhm.
that, that
Yeah,
I think,
it is.
should I have been married to her? Probably not. You know,
Mhm.
should I
Mhm.
have got married to her? Probably not. But it was an amazing wedding. That much I can tell you, right?
Okay. Nice.
Yes, yes.
Of course it was.
Yeah, which, I mean, I don't know why, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's the thing here, and the reason why we're still close today. I mean, but not to make it sound like it was always perfect. It wasn't perfect,
Mhm.
right? There were, there
Right.
were all there were many
I mean,
arguments, there were many fights, there's a lot of,
right.
ugliness that happened. But I think the reason why it probably came back to us being, as close as we are today, is
Right.
because there was something strong there. There was something good
Right.
there. No.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, another thing is that, like, with a lot of my exes as well,
Mhm.
boyfriends as well,
Boyfriends.
we've
Yeah.
we've shared spaces sometimes with exes, Y's, Z's, currents, all these in one hand.
Right.
A lot of people get confused and they're like, what the hell's
Right.
going on here? Like, like, how does this work? And I said,
Right.
well, firstly, remember, gay or straight, they are men, firstly, right?
Right. Right.
Irrespective
Yeah.
of what we, imagine we are men. That's the
Right.
first thing, right?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
thing is that men generally also get on with each other, in terms of, it's not
Yes.
like a straight man and a straight woman trying to live in the same
Yeah.
house with
Yeah.
that straight man's
Just to
ex-wife,
have
or
sex.
never gonna,
Yeah.
never gonna happen.
Right.
So,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so like 3 points on what I said. So the reason that I asked whether you're gay or not is because I get that question, believe it or not. Like I still get that question from, especially from some young guys and some older people also, like, are you gay? Like, then it kind of sounds funny because of my, presence and all that expression and everything. But, like, isn't that obvious? Then I also pause, and I kind of like low-key get confused also about it. Like, I know myself, like I know my interest, I know how fluid it was, and I know what I've done. So I'm like, am I gay? Like, it confuses me also to a few seconds. Like, am I gay? Like, yeah, because it's true. Like, because all these labels, I mean, I didn't come up with the word gay or the label gay, right? It's just, I think it's a Western label, and oh, I mean, whatever. And then there's a definition to be gay, and do I fit to that definition completely? No, maybe not. So I kind of hesitate to answer that. Then I say, yeah, I think I'm mostly gay. Like, just like you said, like, I mean, it just kind of confuses me for a bit,
because
right?
when you just asked me that question, I paused because I want to actually make a little funny
Yes.
thing. But I'll tell you the now, jokes apart, I'll tell you the realistic
Right,
part about it. Like, so say when I was very young, actually, I'd just come home from athletic practice, right?
right.
And I was 15, right?
Okay.
And my mother worked all her life. But she was always off on the weekends. So she'd been cleaning the house,
Right.
and I came after athletic practice. It was like 11 o'clock in the morning. I'd gone to school at like 6 in the morning, come home at
Hmm.
11 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. And as I walked in, and now, burger household, no? Mother in a
Hmm.
pair of shorts, tank top,
Right.
broom in her hand, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I paint this picture for you, otherwise it won't fit. You don't imagine this. Like, so. Anyway, and when I was 15, technically she would have been 25, 35, 38,
Hmm.
38, right?
Okay.
So you can imagine 38-year-old woman, like, a woman,
Yeah,
pair
yeah,
of
yeah.
shorts, broom in her hand, right? So as I walked in the house, she was like, she said, first question, right? She was like, "Are you homosexual?"
Oh
Right?
my God. I think we both agreed we hate that word.
huh? Yeah.
We both
See,
agreed yesterday we hate.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something, then come back to it. So that word
Right.
traumatized me to such a point.
Oh,
That,
now I know what it's true.
yeah. Now when people, people say like, "Oh, are you homosexual?" It's for a moment that's a trigger word for me, right? That's like, oh my god, I'm going to be shot, jailed. What's going to happen here, right? Okay, that's the first thing,
Yeah.
and it takes that millisecond for me to come back. But if someone says, "Are you gay?" Even though you say, and I pause as a joke,
Yeah, yeah,
like, "Are you gay?" I'm like, "Yeah," because it sounds more
yeah. It's
funny and
much
more
better.
balloons and more like like sort of confetti and that kind of thing, right? Whereas this homosexual sounds scary. So I was like, now why I also got scared technically was because I was madly in love with this guy who was in school. We were having sex after school, like
Okay.
in my house while my mother was at work, and I'm thinking to myself, like, like what?
Did she find out?
Why is she asking me this, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now my heart's beating really super hard, right? And then I'm like,
Mhm.
what's wrong with you? Like, why would you even ask me something like that? And then she goes, let me
Homo
show you.
what?
Yeah, yeah. Why you even asking me something like that? And she goes,
Uh,
let me show you. And I was like, fuck, like what? Like,
Oh my God.
oh, and then, so we go to my room, and then she has laid out very neatly on the bed all these one or two letters and cards this guy has given me, right?
Oh my God. Okay.
And I was like, oh, that. And then she was like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, he's one of my closest friends. His parents are going through a divorce. And now in
Right.
my head, I'm thinking, what the has this got to do with anything? Right?
Right.
Like, what are you saying? Because now my heart's like literally out of my chest, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
then she said to me, then it was like she was reading my mind. She said, yeah, but what has
Right.
that got to do with this? She
Yeah.
literally was
Yeah.
said what I was thinking, right?
Right.
And I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? For me, he's one of my closest friends. I don't care what he writes. I just take it. I ignore it. I just, let it be. Because now what I'm really worried about is,
Yeah.
okay, first of all, now, how do I let him come home and stay on a Friday night?
Right.
Because that's what I really want.
Oh,
Because
now
my daytime,
things gotta.
my daytime episodes are my daytime episodes, but the nighttime is like, that's where the whole,
Yeah. Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah. Yeah.
love
Yeah.
factor
You
comes
go to
into
the next
play.
phase. Yeah.
That the whole whatever, and I'm like, my god, like let's please let's do something to not have let stop this. And then she looked at me, she said, okay, that's fine, as long as
Yeah.
I'll give you the benefit of that doubt, that's fine with me. Because she said, if I find out that you are a homosexual, you're
Mhm.
not my son-in-law,
Oh
right?
wow. Okay.
And the funny thing, because I hear a lot of kids say, the funny thing that happened was, i never got I never got upset by it. I never got sad by it. It literally gave me a lot of strength to
Mhm.
then do 100 times more than I was doing anyway. It didn't make me upset. It didn't make me sad,
Right.
because inside I
Okay.
was like, right, I will teach you the lesson of your life for saying that to me, that this is
Right.
exactly what I'm going to be doing now.
Right.
But again, when I say this, right, this has is a huge conflict zone with now getting married, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
1,000 years later.
Right.
Because at 15, when this was all happening, I still had a girlfriend, right?
Right. Okay.
I had a girlfriend from the age of 13. So because back in the day, everybody had a girlfriend, everybody had whatever. So now when I asked
Yeah.
these girls, who were my girlfriends at that time, so I had about 7 girlfriends or 8 girlfriends. When I asked them now, like, who I'm still close to, I said,
Mhm.
like, did you, what were you thinking? Did you, and they were like, well, you were who you were, and we had a great time going out, and
Oh.
we were just comfortable with you, kind of thing, and we probably understand why the comfort zone was not. But the crazy part was, now when I think about it, and now
I
when
think
I
you
think
broke up for a bit.
how many things could have gone wrong, because we were all very sexually active, right? We were very sexually active, because this Gen X lot I'm talking about, this whole irresponsible bunch of idiots who are running around. It was also a time where, like, like all our friends, everybody had a girlfriend, everybody, whatever. nobody had a boyfriend, but like, everybody had a girlfriend, right? So
Right.
because typical boys' school, whatever, right? So now,
Yeah.
and now when I go back on it, like I always, like I asked them, I was like, like my girlfriends who I'm quite close to still, quite a few of them, like how, why? And they were like, like we were always comfortable with you, and they were like, like who thought, kind of situation, So I guess it was also that time, like, 80, 84, 85, 86 kind of thing, where you had like, these things were like, and like I said, there was no access to information at all, so I think you just kind of, worked your way through and whatever. But also it was, it isn't, now thing is, Supun, you're swiping left and right now, to figure things
Mm.
out. But then, then it was skills, actually skills honed, in terms of like how you would actually meet somebody, how the entire thing would go. Disappointments were real. They were not like,
Mhm.
okay, let's swipe again, kind of thing. They were like proper. You'd had to like work on life skills to actually do what you're doing. But also, it was a time where, like the 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 arts center existed at the Lionel went,
Mhm.
it was like a lot of the private parties that existed, the hidden parties that existed,
Right.
and I remember I was 15, and one of my really close friends said to me, shall we, there's a party that I've been invited to by another friend of mine. Because back in the day,
Right.
you'd invite one person, but, that person would bring another five people with them, right? And then they were like,
Mhm.
like, would you like to go? And I remember you, uh, this was in the Havel, this was like a flat in the Havel, and it
Mhm.
was, I remember going into this flat and there was like, this like cartridge paper on these lights in the house, and it was like like all dark. And I remember like about 35 guys, like
Right.
being in this little tiny flat, like
Right.
an older guys and yes younger guys, and this whole thing. And it was
Yeah.
like what the hell's going on here kind of thing. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah. Yeah.
after like 2 minutes or 3 minutes, I was like, oh shit, like this looks like you know, a, a different kind of party, as it were, not like the Dehivala parties we
Oh.
were used to as kids. And
Yeah. Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
and then, I remember, you know, t- being kind of sort of leaving at about maybe 1:30 in the morning or whatever, because remember, I was still 15 at the time. And it's a matter
Mhm.
of sneaking out. So this is another thing. So because my parents were divorced, like I would tell my mom, I'm going to stay at my dad's for the weekend, and I used to tell my dad,
Right.
"Don't come home
Yeah.
to pick me up or expect me to I'm staying with mom." So no, and they did not talk.
Oh,
Okay.
they don't talk. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a
That's the
great thing.
best alibi.
Remember, no mobile phones, no
Right.
mobile
Yeah.
phones,
Yeah.
no nothing, right? So you now when you think about it, you think, my God, like what kind of dangers could have happened. But then
Yeah.
uh, and I remember going back with my cousin. Then but I remember being so scared at this party, or like like really nervous, because like it didn't feel right. It felt wrong. It just did
Right.
not feel like there was anything. But at the same time, there was this surge of excitement, and it was like whatever. And I couldn't show I was excited. I have to show like
Right.
pretend to not,
Yeah. Yeah.
but then
Yeah.
also pretend to be there purely for the alcohol and the smokes and the whatever. And
Mhm.
like, so like, it's this thing you're playing with yourself. And I remember 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, my friend said to me again, like, and my friend was like as straight as they come, right? Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
So like my friend was like, oh, there's another party like that. Would you like to go? And I'm like, okay, now I really want to go, but then do I show him that I'm that excited to go? Like, and I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, is there going to be free booze and alcohol like last time? But free booze and cigarettes like last time? And then it was like,
Yeah.
yeah. I was like, okay, then let's go. Like, but
Yeah.
quickly, like, switch it
Yeah.
up for the
Yeah.
alcohol and the
Yeah.
cigarettes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then much later on in life, when I started realizing who these older guys were,
Mhm.
I mean, these were like proper guys in society who were like
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
like, I mean, business people and politicians, and
Oh,
now, looking back on it, and it was like, at
yeah,
that
yeah.
point, I didn't know who the hell they were. Nobody knew who they were. Then
Mhm.
later on, you're like putting two and two together, like, oh my God, like, this was the
Oh,
guy or that was the guy. And this is quite
right.
crazy. This is quite,
Yeah,
quite crazy. And
yeah,
so yeah, so like I said, back in the day, there was two television stations, one radio
yeah, yeah,
station, many of these underground queer parties, which nobody knew,
yeah.
about, like,
Right.
things that you don't see today in terms of like whatever, but, life went on, like, things happened and, like, it was quite a crazy situation. And like I said, the words, because I have a friend of mine who's actually probably close to his late 60s now, who lives in the US, who told me, he said, Ben, obviously he's much, much, much older than me, but he said to me, he said, when he was growing up, he went to the British Council to look for the word
Mhm.
in an encyclopedia, right? Right. So
Right.
can you imagine, right? And he said, but this is the best part, okay? He
Yeah, I
said,
remember the
when you
encyclopedia
turn to
phase.
the word homosexual in the encyclopedia, that page was like tissue paper. So many people had gone through it.
Oh,
Now that's amazing. You know, when you think
yeah,
about
yeah,
it,
yeah,
now
yeah,
it's a touch, it's the press of a button for anything. But at that
yeah.
time, for him, it would have been the 70s when he went
Right,
there to check on this particular, or the early 80s probably. Like,
right.
the page was like tissue paper that so
Tissue
many
paper.
people had gone through
Yeah,
that
yeah.
page.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I learned the word on the internet. Yeah, I'm a little after that age, but still on dial-up internet, so way before the current internet
yeah,
age.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So but still, like, yeah, I learned the word on the internet on a dial-up connection. It took about 5 minutes to first connect to the internet through all that noises and everything, and then my aunt complaining, shouting from downstairs. Supun, off කරන්න අපිට call එකක් ගන්න විදියට. Because whenever she picks up the phone, she hears because of the internet, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
I learned the word gay. So when I first got the internet, got an internet connection, and the first thing I searched for was, I didn't know the name at the term gay. I searched for like man to man sex or something, Then it popped, and then the whole page got filled with the word gay, 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 and then I realized, oh, this is the word. Okay, that's how it's called. But yeah, still on the internet, not on the encyclopedia. But I remember the encyclopedia phase also. We had an encyclopedia, like a cabinet full of encyclopedia books at school, and not all the students were ever had the access to read it. Like the good students, I was a good student. I never, I did never did anything bad, and I was the
I
good
was
kid
terrible.
in. Yeah, I mean, I wish I was terrible also. Like, I don't know why I've been such a good girl.
You don't wish you would.
But I also want to revisit. So the first point is that the question that I asked, whether you're gay or not, and the second thing is like the fact that I asked whether, like, the reason I brought up whether you got married to a woman or not, because usually, like, in society, like, you're forced to get married to a woman despite your sexuality and everything. But in your case, like, you were not forced to get married. It was your choice. You felt
Very,
it was right. It was very natural, right, for you. Like,
very,
so for me
very,
also, yeah,
sorry, very, very, very burger background in that sense. Very,
right,
also very independently, very rebellious. So
right,
as well.
yeah,
So even when I chose to tell my mother and my father verbally, when, like, I was obviously much older then, and after
hmm,
the marriage ended, you know, and I told my mom, I said, look, I'm telling you this not because I need your blessing or your permission or anything. I'm telling you this before some wild auntie from like some road comes and tells that you know. probably need to
Yeah,
know
yeah.
before her, and I don't want you to be caught by surprise. And
Right,
this is it. And when I told my dad was like, he's like, as long as you're happy, it makes no difference to me. So
right,
my mother and my father's reaction was, of course, very different. Who, my mother was like, oh, sometimes, bad marriages can do this to people. And I'm like, it
right.
can't make you gay. It can't make change your orientation. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's a bit silly and giving too much power to, someone else,
Yeah,
you know. But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
my dad was like, no, as long as you're happy, it makes no difference to me. And my dad's actually quite
That's
sweet that
good.
day. Like whenever
Right,
like it's Christmas time or it's whatever, he'll always send to to my son and his partner, to my son and his
right,
to my son and my son, some very meaningful card he will always send. So
right.
yes, that's been pretty good actually. Yeah,
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 yeah. It's really, yeah. So yeah, like uh, for me also, like I don't know whether despite the fact that people in Sri Lanka, they call the society a very Buddhist and very religious society, and sex is considered something really taboo and all that. Despite that, they always make all the relationships very sexual also, right? Like even the marriage, it's based on sex. Like you get married because you want to have sex with your spouse. You start a relationship with someone because it's very sexual, despite the fact that sex is a taboo and all that. But then again, for me, like being in a relationship with someone and sharing your life with another partner, it doesn't have to be always like sexual. Like you can love someone, you can be very compatible with someone, you can agree to live your life, share the space with someone, not because you're like purely sexually attracted to that person, because you have you support each other, like you have a support system with that person. I feel like that's also a legit relationship. I feel like that
yeah.
could be a legit marriage also, right? um
I in the recent in the recent past, I'm working closely with somebody, a filmmaker
mhm,
from the UK, a Sri Lankan guy who's
right.
massively talented, massively I think one of the only two Sri Lankan filmmakers who's been actually educated in the field, like proper educated in the field, like massively talented young guy. And he told me a very interesting story. He said
Mhm.
even when we are writing, the reason why a lot of the films, Sri Lankan films, don't make it, overseas is because the fact that, the narrative is sort of very, very, very localized. Whereas even if you are to push in a local narrative, you need to be able to internationalize the
Relate to
understanding of it,
something,
right?
right,
And what I'm trying to say to you is that he said, take a relationship, like say, for instance,
right.
when you're overseas, like majority of the times, you meet somebody, you date, you'll go out on dinner dates, you'll go out on movie dates, you get to know the
Mhm.
person, and then maybe if you feel that's compatibility, you say, like, I would like to be exclusive with you, but
Let's
it
move.
takes time. In Sri
Right.
Lanka, the first thing they do is they'll say, will you be my girlfriend or will you be my boyfriend? Like, and what happens is,
Yeah,
so
starts
you're
with
like,
that.
yes. And then what happens is you then get to know the person. So what he was saying to me was, he said, look, if you go to pitch a concept like this to an international movie market, they'll be like,
Right,
what the hell? Like, who the hell behaves like this? Nobody behaves like this. So it's not even
right.
believable from the beginning,
Yeah,
So it's not even believable from
it's
the beginning.
considered a red flag, right? I mean,
Yes.
in the
Yes.
Western society, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right?
If
So,
someone's just asking you to be his girlfriend, in the first
yes.
conversation you have, it's a red
Yes.
flag, right?
So
Yeah,
that in itself is like a huge thing. But and I think also for me personally, of course, I think with with time and with experience and with your, because even no even why marriages also collapse when they are very young is because I believe that there's that Sinhala, that very raw, very crude statement in Sinhala where it says that ekama kadem paripu or something, like, sort of situation, you know
right.
like, where
Yeah,
they,
yeah, yeah.
at the end of the day, like, we also know as people who are much older now, from being in relationships
Well,
with
I disagree with that because I love Surangas paripu. Like I can't eat it every day, but yeah, I get what you mean.
but you also
I'm
have
just kidding.
side dishes, no? You have other meals as
Oh,
well, no? Come
yes.
to
Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So the thing
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
so the thing
I'm
is,
literally Surangas paripu. Like the paripu he makes, I love it. Yeah.
right, right. The thing is, right? The thing is,
Yeah,
see, the reality is that sometimes also why these heterosexual marriages get so sort of like end up in such disaster very early on in life, and people are cheating
right.
and hiding and do, because
Yeah.
it's just that they, you know what so this whole confusion, and,
Yeah.
and now probably people will come at me saying like, what the hell are you trying to promote here? But like, at the end of the day,
Promoting. Everything's promoting. Whatever
yeah,
we say is promotion.
nothing's promoted. We are only looking at the ground reality of it, right? The
Yeah.
ground reality, because you can say what you want to say. So this is why I actually do agree with you in terms of like yes, because you can love somebody, you can definitely love. It
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily always mean it's sexual. It doesn't.
Sexual.
It doesn't
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
be in that. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be in that. The
Yeah.
only thing is that when you're much younger, there's jealousy involved, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
jealousy. The understanding factor is very little then. So there is
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
suddenly like attention is diverted away from you to somebody else, and then you're like, what the hell's going on
Yeah.
here, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
as progressive as I want to be, sometimes maybe I'm not that progressive. So
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
the whole
True.
thing that
True. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like yeah, that's what's interested in me in your story also. Like, yeah, getting married to a woman because you loved her and despite the regular fights and all that you had, which is common to any even to a in a relationship between the most straight people on earth. Like there's still so much, there can be so much problems in that relationship. But yeah, like it's what you want, right? If you feel like you want to get married to a woman, if you love her, and if you feel like you want to be with her, you just go ahead and get married, right? Or a man, like whatever. I think that you should be able to do whatever you feel like, right? Not what you're told or like forced to, whatever that is. Yeah, that's
yeah,
very interesting.
of course, you and I are having the conversation in 2026. So when
This
you go
was
back,
like, yeah,
you know.
yeah,
You
yeah,
and I having
yeah,
it like it's almost like it's normal. First to have
yeah,
the
yeah.
almost like it's normal.
You need to take, yeah, you need to take that context into consideration also, right? It's a much
25
more
years
difficult
ago,
time.
25
Yeah,
years ago, and 30 years ago, it was a whole different story altogether. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. You also like you founded this gay club in Sri Lanka, right? I mean, how was that experience? I think that was probably the only and the last and only queer club, I guess. I don't know if you
Yeah.
call it a queer club.
Oh, you mean actual? Yeah, yeah,
Studio
yeah, yeah,
64.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, yeah, yeah. So so we in 20, I had two other partners as well. Two other
right.
amazing partners, to be honest with you,
Okay,
business partners,
right.
business partners who, who, like,
Quote unquote business partners.
oh yeah, yeah, but
Quote unquote.
only business partners, right? Yeah, who I love,
Okay,
dearly. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, when they came to us, it was like, it was 2013, I think. And then, we said, I was like, we chose to consciously open, I was like, we open a gay bar, and then they were like, how is that going to work in Sri Lanka?
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, not, not a gay bar, but let's call it a theater bar,
Inclusive.
an
Okay,
interesting
okay, yeah,
theater bar. And then it was
right.
called Studio 4, and it was, I mean, I'll send you some pictures, and
Yeah.
it was amazing. Conceptually, it was amazing. Idea of like, the whole concept, it was totally, and in fact, I had a trans woman who, I mean, I don't know whether to mention names or not, but a trans woman who basically, who ran the operation, who ran the gate, who was one of the major
Mm-hmm.
frontliners at the time. And
Right.
then so we had a lot of drag performances in there, and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. And these are people who had other jobs, who also used to come and perform in drag, at the club in the nights. and stuff like that. And it was a massive safe space for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going back to 2013. So we're looking at what 13 years ago. So that was
Right.
hugely progressive at the time. And then also when we talk about sensitization in terms of like, say, the staff, the bouncers, the workers, everybody had to meet up with
Mm-hmm.
understanding that, okay, this is what it was. So there was no question about, like whether whatever your personal phobias were, if you worked for us, you left those phobias at home and came. We didn't like, we couldn't, for us, it
Yeah.
was like, it is what it is. You don't like to work there, that's
Right.
your problem. But then what I find is when it's economically rewarding, somehow people forget their phobias, like,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
that's the other thing. So, so, but it was amazing though. It was like Studio 4 was amazing as a space. I mean, a lot of the
Right.
slightly older people of the gay community, probably the millennials, also
Right.
would remember coming there and stuff like that. So that was
Right.
hugely important, I think, for us. Did I think about it like I'm talking to you about it now? Did I feel it was like going to be this huge? No, I never thought about it. To me, I was excited to open a space that was a safe space for, members of the community to come and to be able to be free. And what happened
Right.
was, sadly, what happened was a lot of straight women started coming there because they started feeling very safe,
Mm-hmm.
right? They could go with their girlfriends and they could, you know,
Yeah.
and because
That's the other thing.
the
Yeah.
straight
I want to
women started
come back
coming
to
there,
that.
the straight
Yeah.
men started coming there, you know,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
suddenly,
That's it's a problem everywhere.
yeah, but now, but see,
Yeah.
the thing is, Supun, here, I have to forget me being gay now and I have to go back to me being entrepreneur,
Straight.
right?
Yeah. Right.
Nothing in life works business wise unless you're making the
Right.
bottom line.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
the straight community that literally upheld the economics of the space
Yeah.
because they're the
That's true.
ones who the community in Sri Lanka did not and still does not have the kind of money it requires to run a space like that.
Yeah.
You know,
That's true.
it
Yeah. Yeah.
goes back to the fashion story. We do not have the numbers to be able to sustain the economics of a space like that. We can,
Yeah.
as wonderful as we think the thought might be in terms of opening spaces, ultimately it boils down to the economics. If the economics
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work in the terms of a business, it doesn't work full stop. So then when the straight men started coming, the straight women started
Yeah.
coming, straight men started coming, then it became sort of more like a straight club and whatever else. And then
Mm.
of course in 2015, when the Sirisena government came into play, what happened
Mm-hmm.
was the license we had was a secondary license. It was a secondary bar license, and we lost the license for the space because we were
Mm-hmm.
operating as a secondary license. So, but nothing to do with the club or anything like that. But
Right.
that's what happened. So uh, that's when it shut down, and then
Right.
we went on to 1.5, yeah, a few months later, actually, of a
Mm-hmm.
year later, maybe we opened the Ramba from there. Yeah, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. I probably have been there like once. I think I vaguely remember. Maybe not. I think I probably have, but yeah, I'm not quite
Studio
sure.
4, Studio 4.
Yeah, Studio 4. Yeah,
Okay.
probably. Yeah,
It
yeah.
was a
But
great space.
I've definitely heard of it.
Right.
Yeah, when I was in Sri Lanka. Yeah. But what you said about straight people, I don't know if the word is hijacking it, but yeah, it happens here also. Like every time a proper gay bar opens, like women started coming because they feel safe at a get at a gay bar, and then they start bringing in their male partners, and that sort of they sort of start to hijack the place because the reason that we have the reason of having a gay bar is for people from the community to feel safe among their own because for obvious reasons, right?
Yeah.
But then again, when that happens, yeah, you start to feel like unsafe, and with all these straight people, and you feel like, are we like making them uncomfortable? All these things get triggered, right?
And
But one
yeah,
tactic these people are using at the gay bars to sort of limit is they some gay bars they telecast on screens they play gay porn, so that thinking that would like repel straight people. Yeah, so yeah, that's a funny tactic that they use, but yeah, that happens here also, like yeah,
Right.
gay bars
And a
getting
lot of
sort of
another reason why a lot of the gay bars are shutting down is also due to the economics of it, right?
economics. Yeah,
Yeah,
so many got shut down.
because
Yeah,
now with the simulation amongst the younger people, like they can simulate
right.
anywhere. Right? They go. I mean, they're very
Yes.
quite fluid in a lot of sense. So they
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
necessarily have to go to a gay bar,
No, no,
right?
that's true.
You're like sort of everywhere,
That's one of
and
the Gen Z things, right? Like they're not divided as we were. Yeah, they're just
yeah.
whatever for them. Yeah,
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 so
yeah,
ultimately it boils down to the economics of it.
yeah, yeah. Economics. Yeah, yeah.
So
That's true.
that's where it is. Yeah.
That's yeah, yeah. So Stefan, it was yeah, like today I mostly wanted to talk about you among all the other things that we talked about. Like it was this episode was primarily to talk about you, and I'm really really honored to have you, and also like I'm really happy that
Thank you.
you
This, yeah.
no problem. So, I want to do another episode with you. There's a lot to talk about. I mean, I don't know if you want to call yourself an activist, but you've been in activism for a very long time in Sri Lanka as well, and
Activism
I'm
by
sure you have
default.
so many stories. Yeah, by
Activism
default,
by
yes.
default.
By default, yeah. Like as queer
Yeah.
people, we have to be. There's no other like
Activism.
unless like you want to choose another
For me,
lifestyle, but
for me, Supun, what happens is, like if there is anything that I can do by talking or by, being like, if somebody younger coming up, just entering, but if they learn anything from this, to me, like, is a huge thing. So I'll be
Mhm.
more than happy to talk to you, further about
Yeah.
a lot of other things or whatever, like, whichever way you want to go about it, because I really feel that the one thing that we lack in this, we lack in this country is uh, the 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 division. Like the division is so obvious. Bridging that division is so important. It's pretty much like, you know the reconciliation of the north and the rest of the country. Like you can you can open as many commissions as you choose to open, with as many ex-presidents heading it as you want to, but the simple
Right.
reality is you're not going to force people to reconcile unless and otherwise
No.
they choose to. you know
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a human to human thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's
now
true.
you see, like, the younger generation doing festivals and art forums and food for and now people are starting to, like, I mean, I can tell you more stories where that is concerned, where the North is concerned. Like, and it's fun. It's like, you can see people like really appreciating artists crossing borders and, that kind of thing. And I think that's the most important thing, not being forced by some clown politician to accept certain things that are never acceptable, especially from them. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's true. Yeah. Yeah, I'm really I'm so eagerly waiting to like talk about the activism story in your eyes, like because I think probably you've seen it all when it comes to Sri Lanka, LGBTQ activism in Sri Lanka. So I'm sure like there's a lot
We've
to
seen a
share.
we've seen a lot. It's probably not all, but a lot.
I tried to be diplomatic and politically correct
Listen,
as much as I
listen,
could,
okay.
but
With me, I chose politics, not diplomacy. Okay, so you can be as political. What? I think I'm the least diplomatic person you could find. To be honest. So, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Thank you, Stefan, and waiting to do another episode
No
with you.
worries.
And I wish you
Thank
all the very
you,
best.
Gail, for doing this for Sri Lanka. Yeah.
No problem. See you there. Bye.
Obviously.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.